Hello, hello.
Hello.
We are back live,
Yes.
actually live for Sundays of Steadyworth. Today is about how to make your first 100K. And we are super excited to be back with you. We're a little bit earlier than normal. We had something come up later this evening that we're going to go do, but hopefully you guys can catch up with us and hang tight for the episode. It's going to be a fun one.
Yes, let's hop right on in. So today we're going to be talking about making or saving your first $100,000. So this would be the goal of this is like, hey, accumulating enough to have a $100,000 net worth.
And why don't you talk a little bit about a framework that we teach our clients a lot around the accumulate, manage, and grow, just to kind of kick us off and get us started with something tangible to wrap our minds around.
Yes, and so it's a flywheel, and I actually forget the
Financial freedom flywheel.
yeah,
Thank you.
the financial freedom flywheel, and we have a couple different flywheels, and so but this one, and I wish we had the visual that we could pop up on the screen. Maybe Laura can look it up, but it's talking about accumulation, management, and growth of money. And so many times when people are working to start growing wealth, they get so caught up in the accumulation phase, but then tend to neglect the management and the growth phase. And you can accumulate a lot of money, but then that will just make you rich and you won't create wealth, because you can accumulate a lot of money and spend a lot of money all at the same time. We see this happen all the time with athletes. They get these multi-million dollar contracts, they accumulate a lot of money, then they spend a lot of money, and they don't ever and so they don't ever, but they never kind of go from being rich to wealthy. So you can accumulate a lot, but then, or even if you're accumulating a little, the real important part is, how do you manage the money you're accumulating? So once you accumulate it, you start managing it. And in a perfect scenario, you need to manage it in a way where you have money left over that you can save and invest. And so that money is where, when you put that money, if you're just saving money in a savings account, it's not really going to grow, but you save that money and then you put it into an investment, whether it's the stock market, real estate, crypto, you choose whatever is most, is works best for your investment style. And then as you start to get that money to grow, then you actually have more money to accumulate, which gives you more money to manage, which gives you more money to put back to work for you. And it keeps growing and growing and growing. So if you can master these 3 steps and not just get caught up in the accumulation phase, but focus on managing and growing, you can really find a way to start making your wealth, just start accumulating fast.
And compounding fast. Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to share that because I felt like that might be a good setup for today's call. I mean, today's topic around just saving 100K, because
Yeah.
it's
And I
more
mean,
than just saving dollar for dollar.
absolutely, because everything that we're talking about is, as you make money, you're going to have to manage it, and you're going to have to put it in vehicles to grow. If you want to do it in an efficient way, of course, you can save dollar for dollar. It's just going to be a much longer journey.
Right. Much longer. And when you factor in inflation and things like that, your 100K may no longer buy you 100K worth of goods, which is what you talk about a lot, but we won't
Sure.
necessarily go down that rabbit hole today. But I think today is mostly about how can we get you into a habit of saving in a way that's going to help you grow your first 100K and then some and beyond.
Yes.
Cool. So why do you think the first 100K is often considered the hardest?
I think, I feel like anytime you start from zero, it's going to be the hardest part. And so when you're starting with growing wealth, it's a different than when losing weight. So if for any of you who have been on a weight loss journey, if you aren't really working out or trying to eat clean, as soon as you start working out and eating clean, pounds just start shedding off of you immediately. And generally speaking, and it's easy to, don't want to say it's easy, but with minimal effort or with some effort, you can start to lose weight. But I've heard of people who have larger weight goals. Maybe it's 60 pounds or 100 pounds. And they'll say, hey, the first half of my weight goal came off quickly, whereas the last 50 to, 30 to 50%, it took maybe 3 to 4 times the amount of time as the first half. And
Yeah.
that's also because the body adjusts to what you're doing. And so then it slows down the progress. Whereas Working with to accumulate wealth actually happens in reverse. And so when you're first starting, saving that first $100, $200, $300, first 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, it can feel like that took forever. But then as your finances start to adjust to what you're doing, one, you start to see it grow, so you're more incentivized to save more. Two, when you're working with compound interest, the more money that you have and it starts compounding a bit faster. And so it happens in reverse, so that when you start saving money, and especially when it's invested and it's in a good investment, that investment can start compounding a lot quicker as it goes on, as you hold it.
Yeah, I've been reading The Energy of Money very slowly. I wish I was reading it faster than I was, but it was talking about a story of this person who really wanted to start investing but didn't know how, and they just started with $100 a month and for a year, right? So they tried to save or invest $1,200 a year, and when they did that and they got to the end of the year, they were so excited and so fired up that they were like, okay, next year I'm going to do more. And I think sometimes that's how, the first year might seem slow, the second year might seem slow, but it's just building on that momentum. And I found, even in my own personal journey, when I was first starting to save, even in my 401k, I would put, okay, I was nervous, like, okay, I'll do 2% of my paycheck, right? And see what that does. And then um I would look at my paycheck when it came and I'm like, I could do more. I could do more. I could do more, and then till you get to a point where it's like, okay, you're contributing the 12% or something like that once you kind of get the feel or get the rhythm.
Sure. Yeah, no, when I first started saving in my 401k, I remember the first year, and this was 2016, actually. So we're talking 9 years ago. I That was my first job that I had that offered a retirement plan, and so I started participating in it. And the stock market was flat that year. I was buying a Schwab mutual fund called SWTSX, and it's about $100 a share. Or no, no, no. Back then it was. Now it's $100 a share. Back then I was buying at about $35 a share, but I was putting in $100 per paycheck into this. And so I remember I'd see this 100 go in each paycheck, and then this you go into my retirement account, and then $200 a month. And the market was really flat. So I remember after like 6 to 8 months, I have like 600, $800
Yeah.
in here, and the market is just moving flat. So it's not going up. It's so at some point I might have $602, and then sometimes I have what is it, like 598. It's like it's
Yeah.
just going back and forth, just fluctuating like a dollar or two, like nothing is happening. It's just like total boring, and I'm just like, man, is this thing
Is it
ever,
gonna work?
when's
Yeah.
it we're going to get the growth? And so then later on that year, the job I was working at did some profit sharing, and that's when they put some of the company profits, they give that to employees. So I got another couple $1,000s that got added on to, let's say, because I think I started contributing in March. So whatever March to December was times two, I don't know the math, but yeah. So maybe 1,500, 1,600 bucks. And then if I had to guess, and then they did profit sharing. The profit sharing was, I want to say, maybe 2,500, something
Oh,
like
wow.
that. So it doubled what I had in there. So then all of a sudden that gave me some buying power. And so now I'm buying some individual stocks, an international fund, some other stuff. And then now I'm starting to see, and then but the fund that I was in, it was starting to grow it started growing little by little. And so it went from $35 a share to 38 to 40 to 38 to 42. And
Yeah.
then, and but
6 years
it took a
later, it's
while. Yeah.
$100 a share.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you were not contributing to your company's 401k, you would not have received profit sharing. Is that right?
For that particular one, you can receive it
Oh,
without
okay.
contributing. That one, for that, some of them you have to contribute, but for that particular one, you can you could contribute. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you
Okay.
could receive it without contributing. I did have one friend who was doing some things and they didn't contribute, but they were also able to receive profit sharing. So that's how I know.
Okay, got it. Yeah. But that's just one way of a lot of companies I don't think do that. I don't know. Maybe, but you're missing out on money if
Yeah.
you're not
Yeah, you definitely
participating.
wanna, because we know when we're talking about accumulating $100,000, this doesn't have to be in your brokerage account and your savings account. We're talking about how can you literally accumulate this through all accounts. Now, of course, if you wanna drill down and be like, "Hey, I just want 100,000 in this specific account," great, you can do that as well. But, hey, if you have 35,000 in your 401k, 35,000 in your checking account, and $35,000 in a brokerage account, you know, that's
You're
105
you're
that's $105,000 right there. You've saved up 100,000. And
that's
so
right.
now if you want to get 100 in each account or in a specific account, of course you just need to put the right type of energy and effort towards getting that money in whatever that specific account is. And
Yeah,
that's
so
what this episode is about.
that's right. That's right. And so really the hardest part is starting from 0, and then it's slower on the uptick at first, which can basically bog down people's momentum or what feels like momentum them possibly.
Yes. I was going to just give me 1 sec. I wanted to just pull something up really quick just to reference. You guys have heard me talk about this before, and what I'm pulling up is you've heard me talk about the Robinhood investment strategy that I do. It's $1 a day, and I invest $1 a day in a Schwab broad market ETF called SCHB. And I'm just doing this as an experiment. Like, what happens if you invest $1 a day? And so I do $1 a day, Monday through Friday, and then $2 on Friday to count for Saturday and Sunday. So in theory, trying to get in $7 a week. I didn't set up any extra buys for holidays, so I don't have any going on for government holidays like Christmas, New Year's, Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July. So I miss out on those. But for the most part, I have about $7 going into this um a week. Now, I started this January 1st, 2024. So we're in the 13th month now.
July.
Now, I'm sorry,
July
this
1st. Okay.
July 1st, 2024. So we're in the 13th month now because it was just year number 2 just started July 1st, 2025. So 13, so we're in the 14th month. Now, imagine when I first started this strategy, what do you think seemed like the longest? Probably the first couple of weeks, because it's only $1 going in
Right.
each time, and you're waiting. It's like, okay, $1, $1, $2, $3,
Yeah.
$4. Now, I just want to say, from just $1 a day, now for 14 months, in that account, there is a total of $443.04. And now that account has a 10.48% return, which means $42.04 of that is investment gain
Got it. Not
after,
money you
after
originally put
14
in.
months. And so, but what was the hardest part? It
Yeah.
was, just
The
seeing this
first
process through, because the first month was $30, and then we had a market pullback, and so the $30 went down to like 29 because the market dropped at the beginning of August 2024. I mean, it just dropped
That's
for like
right.
a week, and then it went back up. But still, and even as we talk about investment gain, we'll talk about this more, but I'm just going to touch on this since I'm talking about this right now. 8 months. I did an 8-month review on a YouTube video for 8-month review. My 8-month review of doing this strategy, I only had a 2% investment gain after 8 months of doing $1 a day.
Yeah. So
After
small.
12 months, I had a 6%. After 12 months, I had a 6% return. And now after 14 months, I have a 10% return. So it's
Yeah.
just like, as you keep going, of course, I don't want to guarantee anything, but one thing I can guarantee is that as things compound, they start compounding quicker and quicker. Just like if you're in credit card debt, when is it the roughest? Is it roughest the first month when it compounds on you, or the 14th month when it compounds
Right.
on you?
Right.
And I can tell you for a fact, the 14th month when it's compounding on you that same debt, it's
Yeah.
going to be a
A
lot
lot more
bigger.
intense. Yeah.
Right. It's a lot more intense than that first month or that second month when it
Yeah.
compounded on you.
So it's a little bit more of a slower game up front, but we'll have it's not a sprint. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. When you're
Absolutely.
when you're looking to save, period. But when you're looking
1,000%.
to get your 100K. So what beliefs about money might be keeping them from reaching 100K?
I think, a couple just beliefs that come out is, hey, this is too much money to save, or it's going to take me forever, or I don't have any money to save. And
Yeah, I don't make enough.
those types of beliefs can definitely slow people down. So I always like when I was working to, don't want to say when I was working to save $100,000, because I never sat down and thought like, oh, I want to sit down, I want to save $100,000. I just thought I wanted to invest money, I want to save, and then it just turned into $100,000. If you look at our YouTube video, not to keep plugging our YouTube, but I have 80,000. I have one stock. We have another YouTube video that talks about making $80,000 in 12 months. And so I bought one stock. I bought and you can just watch the video. But the point is that by buying this one particular stock I bought, it just happened to grow. Like when I bought that stock and I put 26,000 into it. I forget exactly how much money I put in there. I didn't say, hey, I'm trying to put money into this and I want this to grow into $100,000. I had no idea that that company was going to take off that way that it did
that quickly.
And that it was going to have like a 300, like as of right now, it has like a 360% return. And that YouTube video that I put out 3-4 weeks ago, I had made 80,000, but really I've made more than that now 2 months later, because when I did that, the stock, it just hit $100 a share.
Yeah.
Now it's at 113, 14 a share or whatever it is. So you can watch that video. It's on our YouTube channel. But yeah, so I wasn't like, hey, I'm trying to save $100,000. It just happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's if it's a mental inhibitor to say, I need to save $100,000, but then limiting beliefs come in that prevent you from doing it, just focus on something even smaller to get started so that you can get to that level without kind of bogging yourself down or limiting yourself.
Yeah, I think, like if you think about it and like just to kind of bring in the workout example again, of course we all, you can have a fitness goal, but you can also just have a fitness mindset and be like, I want to be the type of person who works out, takes care of my body, and is in good physical health.
Yeah.
You can also say, I want to be the type of person who lives below my means and saves and invests money. And if you have that mindset, you can't help but for it to start, and you act that way on that mindset, you can't help but for it to start growing. And so I can say though, when I was saving money, there were times when, like, especially when I first started my 401k, there were many years that I invested in, I wasn't maxing it out. I didn't have a high paying job, and I saved in it for 5 years, and I was getting employer contributions and stuff like that. And at one point it had 60,000, then 70, then, then it would go up and down, especially when COVID hit. I felt like it went down like maybe 40%. It was just like, oh, is that what just happened right now?
Yeah.
But then once the government started stimulating the economy, it snapped right back. And so it took a minute. And I just want to say, like, the point is that just have the mindset of saving and living below your means and doing it. And who knows what's going to happen. Like I said, last year was $100,000 year. I had no idea, zero, that it was going to happen that way. But it just happens sometimes like that. And so some of you will have that kind of success. You put money into something and it'll just blow up. And some of you, it's going to take a bit longer. I was on the phone with our trainer last week or the week before. Laura and I do functional patterns training, and we're doing some one-on-one sessions this month. And I was on the phone with the guy who's training us, and he was talking about buying Bitcoin in 2020. He said, I bought Bitcoin back in 2020. And that's when I started. I bought my first coin at I bought my first coin at $17,000. Now, as of today, Bitcoin is $117,000 as of right this moment. I have a tracker. It's $117,813 right now as we're speaking.
5 years. Yeah, 5 years later.
Yeah, so 5 years later, and so for him, that $17,000 made $100,000 in 5 years. Actually, a little bit less because Bitcoin's been at that price range about a month ago. But yeah. So it just kind of depends on what investment you get in and what you have going on.
And I think the important thing that you're saying, and I want to circle back, you said it earlier, like the difference between having a weight loss goal and living a healthy lifestyle. There are two different ways of looking at a goal, or there's two different ways of a kind of approaching life, so to speak, or a healthy lifestyle. And I talk about this all the time with people, because I'm always on that health journey. Like being a former athlete, I'm always trying to do, but I actually identify as someone who wants to live a healthy lifestyle, which, and I think James Clear talks about this in his book Habits, where it's like an identity thing for me. Like I have this identity around being healthy, therefore I make healthy choices, right? And so if your identity is, or what you, I'm bad with money, that's an identity statement. That's not a um and it may or may not be true, right? You could just think that you're bad with money, but you're attributing that, which is impacting the decisions that you're making around this, and then therefore preventing you from, you know, uh saving the money, right? Whereas like I am a saver and investor, that's an identity statement that's going to help you align your decisions and choices to putting money away, putting it in your savings, putting it in an investment account. And so even a little shift like that, even if it doesn't feel true, you know, people are like, well, I'm not that person. And it's like, well, start doing the thing until you become that person, right? Like you don't have to wait. And sometimes change feels inauthentic. That's what I always tell
Right.
people. When you're actually making a change for the better, it'll feel a little odd at first.
Yeah, I mean, and when, like, once again, when you get started, it's the slowest thing. I remember it was many years ago, like maybe 12 years ago. I was in between jobs, like primary jobs. So I was working a couple small jobs, and this one job I was working at, you got tips, and so I remember like getting some tips, and I got like $100 tip one. You know, like I had, after I got done with my tips for the night, I had like $100 tip, and that, you know, was in addition to whatever my paycheck was. And I remember coming home and I was like, I wanted to say I'm gonna save this 100. And I was like, I'm gonna just start, you know, I want to start saving as much money as I can. So I remember putting it in this drawer by my bed, and I just had $100. And you know, the next time I go, I got another tip, and out of, you know, not each night it wasn't 100, but you know, I was just little by little. Then I get a new primary job, and then when I got the primary job, I'm like, I'm still gonna save this 100. For whatever reason, I wasn't saving this money in the bank. I was just kind of stacking this money in the house, even though I did have money in the bank. And so at one point, I got to a point where it's like $4,500
Oh,
next to my
wow.
bed. And
Oh
so,
my gosh.
yeah, and so I just was stacking, you know, like every time I got paid, I had to get $100 bill. And this might have been just something because like back then I remember being a kid and I just thought it was the coolest thing to
To
see
have cash.
$100 bills, and I didn't have one. So like even as like meant a therapy thing that I was doing for myself, I was just wanting to have more money. I would get paid and I'd always keep $100 bill in my pocket.
That's
Just
awesome.
as just, you know, when I as an adult, you know, this was like I said, 13, 14 years ago. I was like, I always want to keep $100 bill in my pocket, or a couple of them, so I could just, you know, like, hey, this
Yeah.
is me. And
Yeah.
so, and then I'd get a $100 bill to put in this stack that I had at home. So at home,
Yeah.
I was like stacking this thing, and then all of a sudden I had like 4,500 stacked in these things at home of just $100 bills, and I'd go and I'd count them. And so, but which one was the hardest ones to save? The first two,
First
three,
one.
four? Because I could tell you once I got to 3,500 or 2,000, 3,500, it wasn't hard no more. I'm like, yeah, I'm peeling those off. It's no problem. But the first
Right.
couple, it's like, are you going to want to be committed to this? You know, maybe
Or
there's
do you
something
want
on Amazon you want.
tacos?
Maybe you want to go out to eat. Maybe you want a new
Yeah.
shirt. Yeah, but after that, I was like, you know, I'm good. I want to keep
Yeah.
tracking it. And so, same thing happens. I feel like when you're having some success investing in the stock market or other things, it's
Yeah.
like, what's hard, buying that first couple of shares, or when you have several and you're like, you've had some success, you're making some money, it's like, oh yeah, this is me. This is what I want
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think it's so important to think about that and think about your identity statements and who you think you are and what you believe is kind of that starting point. We talk about that all the time. So I won't go too far down that rabbit hole. I'm actually going to go um I'm going to actually, I think this is a good question. Do you think it's better to aim for 100K in income, investments, or savings first?
Once again, I think I think that saving and living below your means is the most important part, because some things can be out of your control depending on what job and career trajectory you have. Maybe you're already at $100,000. Maybe you're not. Maybe, you know, I know people who are teachers who may never get to $100,000 in income, or it's going to feel like forever when they get there. $100,000 is not going to be as much as it is right
Yeah.
now. But the most important thing is, hey, how can I live a lifestyle where I'm living within my means, and I'm enjoying the life I'm living, and I'm planning for a financially responsible future. So I would say the first thing to do is, when you're working to stack 100K, don't wait till you're making 100K. Definitely don't wait till that. It's like, hey, with whatever money you're making right now, how can you save a little bit of money? And so I'm just going to go back to that first job I was telling you, when I came home and saved that $100 bill, that side job. I wasn't working a primary job. I only worked there like a few months, but that side job is, I was working at a concession stand at the Oakland Coliseum for the Golden State Warriors basketball game. And this was before they were winning championships. This is in 2013. So they did have Steph Curry. They were on the way, but we weren't quite there yet. And
Right.
so, and I want to say the money I was working at that stand was some of the hardest work I ever did. Because you're on your feet, you're dealing with the general
Yeah.
public. You're like, yo, I want my beer, I want my hot dog, I want this, I
That's
want
right.
that. And you're cleaning up all this stuff, you're setting up all this stuff. It was a ton of work. And so, I felt like I've never worked harder for $100 than that time, except for one other time, which I'll tell you some other time. But the point being is that this job is not paying a lot. I mean, it's like a minimum wage job, and you really make your big money on tips or whatever. I forget exactly how much it was paying, maybe like $15 an hour or something. And so the point being is that I didn't want to say, well, when I get a better job, I'll start saving. It's like, no, I just got $100 tip. I'm gonna bring that home, and I'm gonna save
Yeah.
that. And then later on, I got a better job,
Yeah.
and I was saving more. But imagine if I waited, then I wouldn't have had the head start that I had. And so I don't remember exactly how much money I saved when I was working at that specific job. Just like I said, it wasn't that long.
Yeah.
But the most important part is to get started. And so you start saving money. And when should you start investing money? You should start investing money when you feel that you have enough money saved that if something were to like, basically, you don't want to have money tied up in the stock market or in any type of investment that if you were to need your money and that money's in that investment, you would have to go get it, and that investment could be down, or maybe you can't get it out. So you want to make sure you have enough cash that allows you to live your life, and also a properly funded emergency fund that you can grab cash from. And then anything over that, then you can have that, then that's when you can start investing. And so as you're going, you're going to likely have money in several different pockets or buckets, because you can get started and then you have money in your savings account. That can just be some money you have saved for a rainy day. It can also be some money that you have saved up for an emergency fund. And then you can start maybe putting some money in, maybe if it's a brokerage account or an IRA or a retirement account, start putting a little bit of money in that. And it's like, okay, I'm not going to need that right now anytime soon. So I can afford to put that in there and just let it fluctuate and do what
Yeah.
it does. Because one thing about having money invested in the stock market specifically is that, the money, the stock market can go up and down, and it's totally out of your control with what it's going to do. And what you
Yeah.
don't want to do is have the market go down and you need the money. Then you can have money invested in real estate, and then all of a sudden you need the money, and then you have to put that house on the market or that condo or whatever it is, and you're waiting for somebody to come buy it. And so you have to be careful with money that you have invested, because the liquidity, different types of investments have different levels of liquidity. And also, depending on when you need the money, if the investment is down, nobody wants to sell an investment while it's down,
Yeah.
because you're
Like
losing money.
you technically could use it in an emergency, but you will
Right.
have lost money basically.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite stories about starting small is actually in The Psychology of Money, which is right over his shoulder.
Yes. Right.
About the janitor who was making, I don't know how much he was making. It was like really small. And this was a while ago. So
Right. Yeah. I
he was
forget.
living
We'd have to pull up that
somewhere.
story, but we should have had it ready. But
Yeah,
he's
he
working
was
as a
living,
janitor, I believe, at like a school or something. So this guy's not making a lot of money.
and he was doing this his whole life. He lived very, very, like really below his means. He probably a small apartment, but he invested, and I think by the time he passed away, he had like $8 million
Yeah, I believe that is the story.
it,
Yes.
it saved in an investment account or a retirement account or both, or I'm not sure, but his liquid assets were around $8 million. And if you would have walked up to him on the street, you would have thought he needed money, but he was totally fine.
Right.
And I
And
think he worked as a janitor until he passed away. Like, I don't know that he actually retired from that job.
right. And so that's, that's just a testament to you. It's not about how much money you make, but it's how much money you save, how much money you invest.
And
And so,
and and again, that point that I think is very difficult for us right now in this time. I mean, it was difficult for us in various times, but I think with Instagram, social pressure, it's very difficult. We were just listening to our pastor talk about this in his sermon, right? It's like you see on Instagram, this person's wearing this amazing outfit and they take a picture in it and they still have the tags on, they're going to go return it. But now you bought it and you're making payments on it
right.
in order to keep up with society or the look or whatever lifestyle you're trying to maintain. And so I think it's so important. That part is probably more important than any other part at this point, is what kind of lifestyle do you want to have and can you afford that lifestyle? And if you can't, you probably need to make more money first. Not so,
Right.
this is not a normal thing that we say, but you probably need to make more money first to maintain that lifestyle so that you can save, grow, and invest.
Well, I
Because
think, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
like you can't. What do you say? You can't invest
You,
or out earn your money potential or something. You say
oh,
something like that. I can't
yeah,
remember.
you can't invest your way out of under earning, is
That's
what I
right.
say.
That's right.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think to your point is when we start off in our career, of course, we all start off, likely majority of us, unless you have some sort of hookup, we're going to start off in a lower paying job because we have less experience. And then as our career progresses, in theory, we'll make more money. And different career tracks have different income possibilities. And
That's
so
right.
some career tracks you can max out quickly just
Yeah.
because that's what that type of career track is. Whereas some career tracks can have endless earning potential depending
Yeah.
on what it is. And so I think that's what is really important, to find something that works for you, that fits to, will be a career track that supports your interests, your lifestyle, and the
Yeah.
type of money that you want to earn.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that, and then being that you're working in that and you're doing exactly what you want to do, then you have to have peace around what that is.
Yeah.
And
Like
so,
if you want to be working in nonprofit, doing this,
right,
having, being fulfilled in that way, that may not deem the same earning benefits as working in tech.
right. And so I just want to just be honest and just transparent on, there was one point when I was getting started in my career that I thought I wanted to work in nonprofit, and I went and worked in nonprofit, and I just was, as I was there and I looked at my boss and my boss's boss, and I did this for a year, and I'd also volunteered prior to that. And I just was like, this isn't me. Like when I looked at just my boss's lifestyle, and I don't mean just about the money he was spending. I mean, the hours he was working, the type of work they were doing. I was just like, even if I had my boss's job, I don't think I would be happy doing this. I was like, I don't feel like this is really,
Your
uh,
call.
is really working towards actually my skills, abilities, and interests too. Like I had
Yeah.
one idea about something I want to do, but I was like, this doesn't really line up. And I was like, hey, I think I really want to go back and work in finance. And then when I was in finance, I was like, I think I really want to work as an entrepreneur. And so that's one of the great things, that I know we're talking about making your first $100,000, but of course, earning is a big part of it in your job. And so I always encourage young people who I talk to, try as many things as you can in your career
Yeah.
early on, because the best thing you can do is find out what you don't like. The faster you can figure out what you don't like, then the faster you can figure out what you do like. And so try as many things as you can. But even if you're older in your career,
Yeah.
you don't want to, if you're in a career that you're not enjoying, I would say take some time, do some, like what a mentor told me, take some time, do some reflection and some introspection, like, hey, what would I really like my days to look like at work? What type of work do I want to do? What type of projects do I want to work on? What are the things that I
Yeah.
want to work on? Really write those out, get clear on those, and start seeing what type of jobs line up with those things. And you can even, I'm sure, if you can reach out to people on LinkedIn. I've reached out to total strangers before, and and said, hey, would you mind I'd just like to hear a little bit about your job, what you've done and stuff like that. And so, but earning is an important part, but it's not the only part, and it's not everything. Remember our financial freedom flywheel. earning is only the accumulation part of the management and growth. So
Yeah.
you can have a job making $10 million a year, but if you're not managing, you're not growing, you're just making $10 million a year. Then when you go into retirement, you're not going to really have anything if you haven't saved and managed anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think just getting that in order, having a little bit more of a sit down with yourself, being honest, like, hey, where am I at right now in my career? Where am I at with my earning potential? What am I doing currently with my saving? What do I want to be doing with my saving? What am I currently doing with my investments? What do I want to be doing with my investments? And kind of build from there, build your strategy from there, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
Cool. And so if you were starting from zero today, what's the first financial move you'd make?
If I was starting from zero, like I had no money, I mean,
Yes.
where I had a job, obviously, and then, so first thing I would do is I would get my budget in order, because
Yes.
it's hard to know how much money you're going to save if you don't know how much money you have going out. And so it's easy to know how much money you have coming in, especially when you have a job. It's like, okay, every 2 weeks I get paid X amount,
Yep.
but how much money am I spending in that 30-day period?
Yep.
And so the first thing I would do is figure out, okay, and we have a budget video. You can check it out on our YouTube. It's a simple 8-minute budget video. But first thing I would do is I do exactly what that budget video is. What are my hard costs? What are the things I have to pay each month, no matter what? I'd
Yep.
figure out what those things are first.
Yep.
And then after that, I would figure out, what are my miscellaneous costs? What are the other things I need to do throughout the month just to, kind of live and do my life stuff. And then I'd figure out how much money I can save. Now, if I was starting from zero, I could tell you that my miscellaneous is probably going to be a lot lower, because I want to be more aggressive on the savings from the beginning, just because as I get over that first few humps of saving, that first 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, then that's going to give me a little bit more buffer room
Yeah.
to do other things that it is that I want to do.
Yeah. So would you break up your goals? Like, would you do a little bit in an emergency fund, a little bit in investment, a little bit in, retirement, or
Yeah.
just want
So
to
if I was
like
getting started, I
double
had
click even
zero in
further?
all of my accounts and had a brand new job. First thing I would do for sure is, but after
The
figuring out what
budget.
my budget numbers
Yeah.
are, I would start saving some money that I would have going into like an emergency fund, just because if I lose my job, whatever bills and stuff, if I lose my job, my landlord doesn't care, and they're gonna say, "Hey, I still want to
Right.
I still want you to
Right.
pay rent, or I'm gonna put you on the street.
Right.
This is what's gonna happen." And
Yeah.
so the same thing, the power company doesn't care. They're gonna say, "Hey, you still better pay this power bill, or you're gonna be sitting there in the dark." The grocery store doesn't care, and so I need to figure out, how. So I'd start. The first thing I'd be doing is saving money into a savings account to make sure that if this job goes away, I have some money to float myself till I get another job. And so
Right.
I'd figure out what is a good amount to save. Some people say it's between 3 to 6 months of fixed expenses, 3 months if there's two incomes in your house, 6 months if there's one income in your house. You figure out what works best
Yeah.
for you. I'm not going to say which is right, which is wrong,
Yeah.
because the economy can be rough, and there's a lot of very talented people out here competing for jobs. First thing I would do though is have some sort of money in an emergency fund. At the same time, while I'm stacking my emergency fund, if I was working at a job that has a 401k that's accessible to me,
Yeah.
I would start putting money into that 401k, at least up to the amount that they're going to match. So if they match 2%, 3%, I'm going to put whatever it is in there so that I can make sure I maximize how much they match, because that's free money. And even if I lose that job, I get to take everything that they matched. That's,
Yeah.
well, I don't want to say you get to take everything that they match. Make sure you understand what your 401k policies are. Some 401ks do have vesting and non-vesting and this and that. Of course, at the very minimum, you will get to keep how much you contributed. But if you're in one of those retirement programs that has a vesting schedule and you have invested fully, you might not get to keep all of it. So, but the point being is that you'll definitely get to keep whatever you contributed. So I would start doing that. Number two is I'd make sure I'm getting enough that I'm going to max out the match at the very minimum. After that, and after I have a good solid emergency fund saved and some savings, so because I feel like I say things in two ways. It's like all savings can be emergency fund, but your emergency fund is not savings. And
Right.
so, you can use, if you have $30,000 saved, all of that can be an emergency fund if you have an emergency. But if you have a $15,000 emergency fund or a 10,000 or a 5,000 or whatever it is, that cannot be a savings account. And what I mean is you can't just take that emergency fund and be like, oh, I didn't go on vacation this year. I'm going to take some money out my emergency fund and go on vacation.
Right.
Or, they're having a sale at the mall, or it's Amazon Prime Day and I'm going to go do this. Like, no, the emergency fund is for emergencies. You definitely want to have that money put aside for emergencies, because if you spend it, you could get caught in a rough space if you need it and you
Yeah.
don't have it.
Yeah.
Whereas your savings, how I differentiate, your savings can be for things like, hey, I want to take a vacation. I want to go on, I want to get some from Amazon Prime Day. I want to get
Yeah.
whatever. And so I'd have some money set up that's emergency fund money, a little bit of savings for maybe if I want to pick something up. And then from there, I would start investing money. Probably, likely, more than likely, my next investment is going to be in a traditional brokerage account. And so I'd set one of those up, start buying maybe some ETFs, exchange traded funds, have maybe like broad market.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't get into the details of which ones. And I'd start putting money in that, because one thing about putting your money into an investment is that at best you can work an 8-hour job. Say you work 10 hours at your job. And then let's say you even have a side job. After work, you go work 4 hours at some other company, or you moonlight and doing something for someone. When you have money working for you, your money can outwork you. Your money being put to work inside of an
Yeah.
exchange traded fund, inside of a stock at a company, that money
Yeah.
on the market is working, and it can outwork what you can do. And
Yeah.
so my thought is I want to start putting my money into a vehicle where it can work. I give my money a job, and eventually that money is going to be outworking me, so then I don't have to be working all day and all night.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I remember when I first started saving in my 401k, I agree. Like, I wish I started saving my 401ks a lot sooner than I did. I was just, yeah, we won't go down that rabbit hole. But when I finally did, I remember going in there and thinking I didn't have that much in the retirement account. And then I would pull it up and I'd be like, oh, there's more in here than I thought.
Right. And I think,
Because of
yeah,
the
one of our
gains.
biggest regrets both is that we both realized that we could have saved more money sooner.
Yeah.
One of our biggest regrets, like, what was I even
What
doing?
were we thinking?
What was
What
I
were we
doing?
thinking?
Nothing. Wasting
Yeah.
time and wasting money.
Yes.
That's
So
what we were doing.
we were not poster children for the best money moves we've ever made in our lives. I was really slow to the investing front. And, of course, Gabe had his journey with his career, figuring out he wanted to be in finance. And so that is definitely one of our biggest money grunts, is not starting sooner and not just putting something away versus nothing. And yeah, so I'm going to keep us trucking along because we're about 42 minutes in, and I want to make sure that we stay on track here. But we were going back and forth about this question earlier. How much should someone aim to save or invest each month if they want to hit 100K in 3 to 5 years?
So we were looking at those retirement calculators that would calculate this up. And I feel like sometimes just saying those numbers, we'll post the retirement calculator and the link in the description, and we'll let you guys run it yourself. It's a very simple retirement. So you can, or it's not a retirement calculator. It's
It's
a
a
savings.
regular
Yeah,
investing.
it's a savings calculator. Sorry that I called it retirement calculator and made it confusing. So it's just a savings calculator. And you can say, hey, I'm starting from zero. I'm starting from this amount. I'm expecting this amount of return each year, and I'm going to contribute this amount. And you can run different scenarios. I didn't even want to throw any of the numbers out because I didn't want it to be discouraging, because it's, like, I don't want somebody to say, oh, I got to save $1,000 a month and then hope for this type of return, or I got to save 2,000 or 1,500, or it's just, once I want to promote the idea of, I want you to become a saver and an investor. And I want you to take on that mentality, that lifestyle. And I think what you're going to realize, it's going to happen faster than what you thought. And the thing is, if it takes 3 years, if it takes 5 years, if it takes 6 years, Lord willing, if you're still living, either way, you're still going to be here. So then you get to realize, in 3, 5, 6 years, am I going to have 100,000, or am I going to be in the same position I'm going to
Yeah.
be in right now? And
Yeah.
nobody wants to be in the same position they're in right now. So that's why I would just encourage you, just get started. Just get started. And let's say you get started in 3 years, you don't have the 100, but you have whatever that amount is that you're
It's
saving.
50,
You have
60,
more than what you
40.
started with right
Yeah.
now. And so,
That's
I mean,
right.
yeah, with my dollar a day strategy, of course, if I wasn't doing this, I'd still have more than this in this, but It's just I'm just showing this whole point of the strategy is showing what if you just did $1 a day? Now imagine if it was 2 or 10. In this
Right.
account, I would have 10 times the amount if I was doing 10 or
That's
$10 a
right.
day. But I just want to, but my whole point of even doing this is because since we work in financial education, we have a company that educates people on finances. I like to be able to pull this account up when I'm working with clients and just showing this is what this account has been doing, invested in this, doing $1 a day.
Yeah.
What do you feel comfortable investing? What if you did $1? What if you did 2? What if you
Yeah.
did 3? What if you did 5
Yeah.
and did a similar strategy? Where could you be at in 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years? The whole
Yeah.
point that if we can encourage you with anything, we would just love to encourage you, get started doing something.
And one personal story, and we were talking a little bit about this earlier, is when I first started contributing to my 401k, like legitimately, not just like, oh, let me start here and switch jobs. And I was at this job and I was like, okay, it's time. I need to get this set up. I got my 401k set up. I was like, okay, I'm just going to do 2%. I didn't even know do the contributing for the company match. I don't even know if we had that. I had no idea. I had no idea of the details. So I was like, okay, well, I'll do 2%. And then I got my paycheck and I was like, I could actually see the amount that came out of my paycheck and how it didn't really make a huge difference in my net. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll do 3%. Okay, maybe I'll do 4%. Okay, maybe I'll do 6%. And every once in a while, I would go in there and up it just because every time I got my paycheck and I looked at it, I was able to see how it actually impacted my net and what I was actually saving. And it got me really excited the more I saw it and the more I did it. And so I started to just keep bumping it up to the point where when I got my job at Salesforce, well, actually, I got my job at Slalom, which was a local consulting firm. I did the same thing. I got my 401k set up right away because I knew I wanted to get it going, and I I I accidentally maxed it out.
Right.
Because I had so much momentum from my previous time that I was like, and when I got my new job, I had bumped up my income. So I was making more money than I was at my previous job. I had actually lowered my expenses during this time as well. So I wasn't paying as much. So I knew I could kind of toggle that line. And then when I finally got to Salesforce and from my slalom job to my Salesforce job, I actually doubled my income like overnight. So I was like, I know for sure I have enough room to max this out. And so I maxed out my 401k for 4 years. And, by the end of the 4 years that I worked there, I had almost $125,000 in my retirement account. And so you never know how fast it's going to go. And it does depend on your situation, your income level, your expenses, and all that stuff. But the sooner you get started, the more momentum, the more exciting it is, and the more you'll feel comfortable doing it because you'll know more. So just going on a little
Absolutely.
spiel there.
Yes.
All right. What's on your mind? Where are you at?
No, I'm like,
You're tracking?
yeah, I'm tracking. What do we got next?
Okay. What do we have next?
Yeah, I was gonna say also, I mean, this is just a side tangent, but the same thing. If you want to know when you're upping your 401k contribution, you depending on what size company you work at, you can probably go to the HR person who's over it and ask, hey, can you run me a calculation? So if I put $100 a check, $200 a check, $3, 350 a check, they can tell you how much money you would have left, or you could do the strategy Laura did and just adjust it and wait and see what it is. There's
I
also an
worked for a bigger company, so it
right.
wasn't
She was
as
at a much
easy.
bigger company. I used to just ask the person, or you could they have like an ADP calculator where you can actually put in how much money you
Yeah.
make, put in your different deductions that you have coming out of your check. You literally can plug in everything you have, and then you can play with that retirement contribution amount. And so that you can calculate on your own. So then you can say, okay, $100 a check going into retirement, $200 a check. And then it will actually run all of the calculations and tell you how much money you're going to have after each check. And so it's a great way that using that calculator is a great way to do that. So you can play with it and, so you make sure that you have enough money to cover your expenses, your bills, and still live life.
Yeah, I dropped it in the comment section. So the ADP, it's salary paycheck calculator, super helpful. We've used it in workshops before just to help people even price out what salary you should request in your job, right? Like
Sure.
will it cover, etc. So we won't go down that hole. But what role does debt play?
So, debt can slow things down because when we're talking about saving money, remember that if you're in debt, has especially when it's debt that has interest connected to it, it's compounding against you. And
Right.
so that interest is growing while you're working to save money. And so depending on what type of debt you're in, it just kind of depends. I mean, if you're in student loan debt and if you have a lot of it, I I personally wouldn't work to pay off all my student loan debt before I started saving money personally. And I have some student loan debt. If I was in credit card debt, like I had like credit cards that were just running for months and months on end, I would work to pay those. Credit cards interest rates are extremely high. They're like, depending on which one you have, it could be like 22, 24, 28%. And so those are just going to compound much faster than because it's going to be hard
Yeah.
for you to get an investment like an ETF or find an investment in the stock market that's compounding at 28% annually. Those credit
Right.
cards are going to be compounding nonstop. And so I would definitely work to get that under control. I would still save some and have like a little emergency fund, but it's going to be hard to go all out on your savings while the credit card company's going all out on you on tagging you with interest and running the juice
Yeah.
on you. And so you definitely want to get that credit card down, debt down, and make sure that you're living within your means. Once again, this is why it's really important to have an emergency fund because depending on what's going on, either you're not living within your means or you're having emergencies come up and you don't have an emergency fund, so you're putting it on a credit card. It's
Yeah.
one of two things, and I've done both. I've definitely lived outside of my means, and I'm just running a bunch of things on credit cards where I just got into a whole bunch of trouble with credit cards. I think I've shared this on I've shared it on one YouTube video where back in many years ago, I had to file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy just because I was in just way too much debt. I was in like 40 plus K of debt, and I didn't really even have a decent job. And so, but that was
Yeah.
from years of stuff. It was from years of irresponsibility. It was some medical stuff. It was this, it was that. But I can say that a good majority of it was from me living above my means.
Yeah.
Honestly, it
Yeah.
was. I was living above my means. I was doing too much. And I can think of many things that I bought and did that I was like, I could have definitely passed on that,
Right.
knowing what I know now, thousand
Yeah.
percent. And
Yeah.
so, of course, there are some things that come up like, your tires are bald and it's raining and you've been spinning out. Like maybe you want to put some tires on a credit card or you crash your car and then
Yeah.
it'd be a whole different problem. So,
Yeah.
because yeah.
Totally. So,
Um,
I mean, in essence, like debt can really be a big barrier to goals.
Sure. And so that's why, it's we talk about this a lot on this channel, but it's really important to get clear on your priorities because when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else.
That's
So if
right.
I say yes to my goal of saving 100,000, or if my goal is 10,000 or 2,000, that means I'm going to have to say no to some other things where that money may
Yeah.
want to go. And if I'm saying yes to things that are causing me to take on debt, that means I'm saying no to saving money in a great way until I
Yeah.
pay that debt off because unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to work a regular job,
Yeah.
make a regular income, and save good money and just have debt running because the debt's just going to lap me every time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to make progress when you're in debt
Yes.
or to achieve what you want to achieve when you're in debt.
Yeah, it's really, really hard as somebody who's tried to do it, it's
Yeah.
really hard.
And so not to be discouraging or anything like that. Like I think, your goals are obviously still possible, but
Right.
there may be some sacrifices that you have to make in order to get that debt down
Absolutely.
first.
I just want to say we have a client who has a good income. I'm not going to say how much, but when we started working together, this person was in $35,000 worth of debt. And I mean, they've paid down all of their debt. And before we were working together, they were in $50,000 worth of debt. So
Yeah.
they were already addressed the first 15 before we started working together. They are now maxing out their IRA for the last 2 years. They have equally as much money in brokerage accounts. They're
Yeah.
saving in
Just
a
investing.
529 account for their daughter, which is a college savings account. They're also purchasing things, different types of crypto assets. They are doing well. And
Yeah.
so I just want to say that it's taken a few years to address it, but they have stayed diligent on it and they're still living a life that they're enjoying, that they're excited about
Yeah.
every day. They're just still, doing things, going to football games, watching
Going
football
on
during
golf
football season
trips.
because they're a big football fan, play golf, going on golf trips, traveling. And so there is a way to do it,
Yep.
but you have to be very clear on what it is that you're going to do and what you're not going to do.
Yeah. And be really disciplined in that.
And be really disciplined in that they have done for sure.
Yeah.
And you
Absolutely.
can do the same thing.
Absolutely.
1,000%.
Absolutely.
And so
You're a
that's why,
saver and
yeah,
investor, a
yeah,
steady worth
I
wealth
want you to
builder.
feel encouraged no matter where you're starting from, as long
Yeah.
as you start, that's the most important.
Yeah. We've been you were talking about this quote the other day, weren't you? Or did I hear this somewhere
Which
where
one?
it's like, we use it a lot and you hear it a lot in investing as well, where it's like the best time. Oh no, I was listening to something on Instagram. The best time to plant a tree was 100 years ago.
Right.
The next best time is today.
Absolutely.
Right. And so today is the day
Right.
that
Let's
you can
go.
kind of that you can move from being a spender, a liver above your means, someone who's in debt, to being a saver and investor. It's one day, it's one decision,
Right.
right? And there may be some stuff that you got to navigate in order to really make that a reality and to believe that yourself. But today you could make that decision. I'm a saver and I'm an investor and I'm going to do this. So just a little bit of an encouragement. All right. So let me see here.
I'm going to just hop on. I have a few things I'm just going to
Great.
So I think, I was just looking at a couple questions I have here. So we know we don't have, do we have anybody on with us that we see if they have a question?
We do not right now.
Okay.
No.
And so what are 2 to 3 money habits that help you build real momentum early on? I think it's being very clear on your financial goals. And I think this is whether you're saving $100,000, whether you're starting a business, losing weight. If you get very clear on your goals, you can start to build momentum quickly because you know what you are going to do and what you're not going to do. And so I think, if I could leave you with that, so if 2 to 3 money habits, I would say get clear on my goals. Don't take on any extra debt. And I'm sure that's going to be one of your goals that you got clear on as well.
Yeah.
Pay down the debt that you have. If you have some debt, if you have decent credit, maybe transfer it to a 0% credit card, get that paid off. Yeah, join a community around other people. Work on being around other people who aren't spending money a lot and who are
Yeah.
more interested in saving and investing.
Yeah.
Because that will also help encourage you. There was a time where I just was really caught up in going to happy hour, hanging out, doing things with friends. But when I was started getting on my business grind, I had to start working with people who were doing business stuff, just because my friends who were doing that it wasn't conducive to the goals that I had. So I had to switch up. I'm not saying I stopped being friends with them. I'm still friends with all of them for the most part. But I
Move
had to,
out of
hey, I
time.
got to separate myself because I have some other goals that I'm trying to achieve. And a lot of times when you're really working to achieve a goal, many times you have to step back, have to take a couple steps back and sometimes off to the sideline so that you could take several steps forward. And that's with
Right.
anything great. When I was working on becoming a certified financial planner, guess what I wasn't getting to do? Go hang out because I had to spend my time in the library studying to pass that test. And so if you're working to stack that bread to get ahead in your career, you're going to have to figure out, what is my game plan and what's a couple goals that you can do to,
And
put that momentum in action.
yeah, and just to reiterate the point, is like it's not to like disappear necessarily and do it by yourself. It's like find other people who are doing that as well. Because it's really hard to keep momentum and keep disciplined on something, especially if it's new, if you're not around other people who've either done it before, who are trying to do it, um, or who are aiming to do something like that. Like your financial journey isn't really meant to be done alone. And I think a lot of times, like now, money is very taboo thing to talk about with your friends, with your coworkers, with your family. But in order to really make strides, I haven't met someone who's been able to really do it by themselves.
Yes.
They may have really good habits and saving habits, but there's areas that they could be even challenged even more, or they could get encouragement in times when they're feeling really down or something happens and they have to pay, and they can be getting some different advice, but you want to be getting advice from people you want to be like, not people you don't want to be like. I always have that caveat. So anyways, next question.
Yes. And another one I like is, how do you stay motivated when the goal feels so far away? And I want to tell you, motivation is a feeling, and feelings change depending on what's going on. I can wake up feeling one way and go to bed feeling another way, and in the middle of the day feel a totally different way.
That's right.
Motivation can be connected to an emotion. So you can't always rely on motivation, but you can rely on systems and habits. So
That's
you want
right.
to build systems and habits that are going to work for you. And that's why it's great about lining out what your finances are, what I'm going to spend money on, what I'm not going to spend money on. It can be something as simple as creating a 24 to 48 hour rule to spend money. So it's, hey, if I have a purchase of something that I think is a good idea that I want to buy, I have to at least think about that 24 to 48 hours, especially if I wasn't planning on spending money on it that month. And so you
Yeah.
can walk into a mall, it's like, oh my gosh, I've been meaning to do this. Or you can get an email about something. It's like, I've been wanting to do this. Like, no, let me think about this for 24 to 48 hours and make sure that this is really aligned with what I want to do. That's just one idea, but there's
Yeah.
multiple. So make sure you set up some systems and some habits, because your motivation is going to leave you along the journey. You
Yeah.
have to have system and habits to help keep you accountable. And it'd be even great if you had a friend who was on the journey with you, who could also help keep you accountable as well. And so
Yeah.
I would say that,
Absolutely.
what does having $100,000 do for $100,000 saved do for your confidence and options? What does it do for your confidence and your options in life? And so, I mean, right now, look at your bank account and see how you feel. I don't know. Some of you guys may have a
I
lot in
feel
there, some of
bad.
you have a little in there. With what you have, not including your credit cards, what options do you have to go spend money and feel guilt-free about it? Not including your credit cards. And
Right.
so think about, if right now I could look in that account and there were $100,000 in there. The funny part about having it is the more money I make and I save, the less money I want to spend.
Right.
Like the more money, sometimes I'm like, yo, I just got 100. Maybe I could get 200. Maybe I can get 300. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't say, oh, I got 100. I'm ready to go on vacation. Like, no, I'm like, hold on. I want to go on vacation with some different money. I'm not trying to go with this money. That
Yeah.
money is working. And so, I don't want to interrupt that money while it's doing its job. And so
I
what would that do for your confidence, being able to look at your account? Because I can tell you that when I had that job and I was saving those $100 that I was telling you about in my nightstand or wherever it was at, and I was coming home and I was looking, I was like, oh man, here's 2, here's 3. Ben needs friends. Ben Franklin, he needs friends.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, he needs friends. He likes friends. So yeah, so keep stacking that bread. And
Well,
so,
one
but what would that do for your confidence? I can tell you, as somebody who's done it, your confidence is going to go through the roof. Because the thing is that when you have options, it's like, man, I could go to Europe, but I also could just chill at home and be happy.
Well, and I think what you're touching on too is something that I'm thinking in my head is like the bank account isn't necessarily everything. Like you could have $100,000 saved and have no freedom. And we
That's
talk about
right.
this all the time. Right. And like that's one thing we talk about a lot with my job at Salesforce is I was making a ton of money. I was saving a ton of money, but I couldn't just go to Europe I probably could have, but we weren't in that place. And I was still tied to a job and a thing that I didn't actually give me too much fulfillment, right? So I think there is a combination of saving the money and having the money in there and also having the freedom in your mind, body, and everyday life to use it and feel
Yes.
confident about using it. And I think that comes with a mindset as well. I mean, we talk about this all the time, but it does come with a mindset because we know a lot of people, we've worked with a lot of clients who have money saved and can't spend it.
That's right.
They cannot spend it. They feel a lot of anxiety and stress about spending their money.
And that's going to hit on my next question. It says, if someone hits $100,000, what should they do next?
Keep
And
saving.
so you should save, but I think also you have to realize money is a means to an end. It's a tool.
It's a
And so
tool.
after you hit this goal, what are you going to do to celebrate? You want to
Yeah.
save some more. Maybe you want to go on a vacation. Maybe you want to do something. But I want to make sure that you get to a point where you're able to you're able to use the money that's in line with your goals as well. Because
Yeah.
maybe it's like, hey, I've saved 100,000. I really want to work to save 1 million. But my
Yeah.
question is, but then what happens when you get to 1 million? Because at the end of the day, we're not just about saving and making money here. We're about, how can I enjoy my life? How can I leave a legacy to my family, to my children, to my church, to, causes that are important to me. So the savings is important and you want to become that person. But it's like, at the same time, money is a tool. I was listening to a podcast, it's a Jack Mallers podcast, and he was telling a story one time, and he talked in the story, it was just a parable that he heard or whatever. And I'm just going to tell this very quick. And it's like, a guy, he found like he had a hundred that he had a pot, a big old thing of gold, so he couldn't keep it in his house, and so he went and buried it somewhere. So every day he would go and dig the gold up, check on it, make sure it's okay, then uncover it, so then cover it back up. Eventually somebody figured out that he was going to that's what he was going to do. So they went and they followed him and they saw what he was doing. And then when he went home that night, they went and dug his gold up and they took it and then, covered it back up. So then he comes the next day, tries to dig his gold up, and it's gone. And so the person goes, and so then he's like, oh my gosh, my gold, my gold, my gold. And somebody asked him, they said, well, what's happening? Because they took my gold. I had it buried here. And they goes, well, why, if it was of value to you, why wouldn't you leave it in your house? Why
Yeah.
wouldn't you store that in your house? It's like, I can't store that in my house. I have to have it here. They were like, well, what were you going to do with it? He goes, I'm not going to do anything with it. I'm just going to have it here. And he goes, well, if you're not going to do anything with your gold, he was like, just put that rock in there and cover it with gold and check on that. Because that's all it's
It's
worth.
the same thing. Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
so what are you going to do with this money that you're making that makes it so valuable?
That's a great question.
We're going to leave you with that question.
Yes.
Have a beautiful Sunday.
Yes.
Lastly, we're going to leave you with that question. What are you going to do with your gold that's so valuable? What are you going to do with your life? What legacy are you going to leave for your family? How are you
Leave
going
it
to
in the
double click?
chat.
How is this $100,000 that you're savings going to change the next generation? Going to change you? Going to make your retirement better? I want you to think
Yeah.
on those questions. While you're thinking on those, I have a double click I'd like for you to do is come to our attention after looking at our YouTube analytics that over 80% of the people who watch our videos are not subscribed. If you have not subscribed and you're getting some value out of these videos, please go ahead and click that subscribe button. Also give us a like, ring that bell. The bell will tell you when new videos are coming, but you already know we're doing Sundays with Steadyworth. So we're going to be here with you every Sunday. Have an awesome day, and we will see you next week.